Hi, students. Welcome to your Lesson 8 learning lesson for today. So, this is day 8 of our poetry unit. So, I hope that you guys are enjoying this unit of poetry where we're being able to be creative and we're learning about figurative language and we're learning about similes, metaphors, and all of these things. So, today we're going to learn about a new concept today called illusions. We're going to discuss how this affects our poem, and we're also going to be able to analyze, which means to examine, to look into the character's action and the poem setting, which is where it takes place, and make inferencing. And we're going to read our new poem today called Traveling. Traveling. So what does it mean to travel? Think about it. What does it mean to travel, you guys? So let's dive into our lesson 8 and see what we're going to learn today for our lesson. So the first thing that we always like to do is two things. We're going to go over our core vocabulary, and we're also going to learn some cool, interesting things about our poet, of the poet and author of our poem today. So the first core, our vocabulary. So our core vocabulary, our first word is veterans, and it is a noun, a person who's been in the military. So you might know someone that's a veteran, maybe your uncle, your aunt, your grandfather, your grandmother, your mom, your dad. These are a person that served or has been in the military. Okay, so your next vocabulary word is a literary vocabulary word. So it's dealing with our unit today, our lesson. So this is an illusion. It is an indirect reference to an outside work of art or cultural figure. So it's an indirect. So it's not directly. It's not one-on-one. It's not right there. It's going to be it's going to use figurative language and things like that outside of it to reference it. Okay, so our poet, the author of the poem is Simon Ortiz. He was born in Albuquerque, New Mexico in 1941. Also, cool thing is that English is his second language, so that's awesome. It's always really good to learn some new interesting things about our poet and the author of the poem, so we know as we're reading a little bit more background knowledge over the poem and things like that. So let's dive into our poem. Okay, so it is called Traveling. Traveling by who? Simon Ortiz. Okay, perfect. Let's go ahead and read it. A man has been in the VAH library all day long, looking at the maps, the atlas, and the globes, finding place. Acapulco, the Bay of Bugle, Antarctica, Madagascar, Rome, Luxembourg, places. Ooh, tongue twisters, all those words. He writes their names on a letter pad, hurries to another source, asks the librarian for a book, but is out, and he looks hurt and then rushes back to the globe. Turns a few times and finds Yokohama and the Aleutian Islands. Later on, he studies Cape Cod for a moment, a faraway glee on his face. In his eyes, he is Guayan, he is Coyote, he is who he is, traveling in known and unknown places. Traveling. Okay, great, boys and girls. So I want you to take a moment and read that quietly and silently to yourself, and then we're going to answer some discussion questions. Okay, boys and girls. So I hope that you enjoyed that poem and you took some time to read it yourself. Make sure also, boys and girls, that you take some time to number and label your poem by numbering your lines and then also numbering the stanzas. So our first question is, what does the man put on his list? What does he put on his list? I want you to think about that and write that down in your writing journal. Also, what place does he find? What place does he find? Go ahead and look in your poem and answer this in your writing journal. Also, what kind of locations do these names describe? For example, Acapulco is a city. So I want you to answer those 3 questions for me. And also, 2 more questions. Now that we have identified all these places, can you tell me a little bit more? Does he want to travel to one place of the world or many parts? And also, your last question, what sort of personality do you imagine this man has? Okay, I want you to take the time to answer those questions in your journal, and then we're going to pick back up on our next portion of our lesson. Okay? Perfect.